check the knife. Kim, how are you? Good to see you. Good to see you. Good afternoon, everybody. First of all, thank you for being here on this special but unfortunate day. 4 years ago today, we lost Sean Gannon. I'm pretty certain that he's listening to us because he lies at peace a little more than a stone throw from here. Wasn't quite sure what to say, I never am. But today, as we move forward from this tragedy, we got to look at the positives that could come out of it, which we probably didn't think could ever happen, but they have. One of them is this building you're in right now. This area was chosen by Sean Gannon himself to be the site of our new canine training area. But as a result of many people, the Yarmouth Police Foundation, Sand Dollar Custom Builders, they put this building together to help train so many officers for decades to come, because we all knew that Sean was very into training and doing the best that he could do. And it was all done through donations, so that's pretty incredible. Additionally, Governor Baker signed a training bill not long after the loss of Sean. That was something that wouldn't have happened. But today, we are happy to report for our canine officers especially, and their beloved partners, which are really part of them, to be here to ceremoniously sign the Nero law. We have Nero sitting right over here, which but get a good look at Nero, because that's a symbol. That's a symbol of strength, resilience, and we can overcome a lot of things if we all work together. I know it holds a special place in my heart. And when I see him, it gives you strength. Despite everything we have gone through over the past few years, people keep calling, our canines keep responding, they do the work that nobody else wants to do. And Dara, God love you. So, for my canine brothers and sisters, I know most of them are outside eating the leftover sandwiches. This is for them, too. They need to be able to work knowing that their partner, their family member, canine, is going to get the best services they can should they be injured on duty. And this bill will accomplish that. I know Dr. Smith, I'm not sure if she's here. Thank you for doing that. There's a bunch of people who made that happen. We got Will Crocker somewhere around here who put this in motion. And there's a few others. Maybe someone heard of Representative Stephen G. Exaros. He is in the House. But I'm going to turn this over now, because I've talked enough, to our friend, Charles Baker. Governor, thank you.
So, thank you. Please, you can grab a seat. Let me just start by saying that Bruce Tarr will vouch for me on this one. The Lieutenant Governor and I brought this issue up at our weekly leadership meeting every week for over a year. There are plenty of other things we could have brought up in that leadership meeting, and we did. But we brought this one up every single week. And the reason we did that was for a bunch of reasons. One of them was a really simple one. It was the right thing to do. The second is we both believe, the Lieutenant Governor and I, that this was part of the healing process, the closing of the book, the turning of the page, the opportunity to pull something positive out of such a horrible, terrible, tragic situation. And we're really honored to be able to have this chance to engage in this ceremonial signing here, in this community, kind of in the house that Sean built, with a lot of help from his community. And to also have a chance to recognize Kit, who saved the lives of these two gentlemen in the front row from Braintree, who were basically about to be ambushed at the point in time that the dog figured out, before anybody else did, what was going on, and charged the man who was planning to shoot and kill, assassinate several Braintree police officers. These dogs, they are very special. And sometimes people say, you know, it's crazy the relationship that these officers have with their partner. As the stories pile up and time goes by, and the number of circumstances and situations in which these dogs, well trained, deliver on behalf of their partners and the communities they serve and represent, we shouldn't even have to debate or discuss whether or not if they get shot or injured in the line of duty, that we should do what we can to save them. Because Lord knows they would save us if the role was reversed. And it's so terrific, by the way, to see so many members of the legislature here today to celebrate with us. And Joe Ferrara from the Governor's Council as well. This is very much a team effort. This is something many of us wanted to see happen, and not just for the Gannon family, but for all the other Gannon families who are out there and whose family members depend on these dogs to keep them and their communities safe. I've carried this around in my pocket for 4 years. It's Sean Gannon's card from the funeral. And I carried it for a couple of reasons. The biggest one was I never wanted to forget what happened to him. Because it happens all the time to people in law enforcement. I wear Sergeant Chestnut's bracelet for the same reason. Serving a warrant, answering a call, doing a stop, executing a search. These things change in the blink of an eye. And going from just another moment on the job to a potentially and sometimes ultimately life-saving, life-threatening moment. And I never wanted to forget about the role that those dogs play in helping their partners prevent the absolute worst from happening. So when we did get this passed, and we did sign it right away, it was very important to us and to many others that we have a chance to come here, to have this chance to properly acknowledge and celebrate all those whose role was so important in making this happen. So yeah, there's a tremendous amount of sadness that comes with this. But at the same time, this is a very special moment about a very special person and a very special force and a very special community and a very special partner. And I'm really glad we had a chance, ultimately, with our colleagues in the legislature, to say God bless and thank you to the Gannon family and to everybody else who was part of making this happen. God bless and thank you. Lieutenant Governor.
Thank you, Governor. Thank you, Governor, for your beautiful and heartfelt words, and I can attest to every word, but also the feeling and the heart that goes behind each one, as I have been a co-pilot with the governor over the past 7.5 years, and I know how much he pours his heart and soul into his work and into causes like this. This is a sad day and a beautiful day all in once. I stand in this facility and I can't help but think, after Sergeant Sean's death, what the outpouring was in this community to support the men and women who serve and their families, and in particular the Bryan and Gannon families. And this building, as the governor said, the house that Sean built, is indeed a reflection of this community. And that is a beautiful thing to celebrate. And it is yours. It doesn't happen everywhere, but it happens here. And you should be very proud of that. I'm here today feeling very grateful for the men and women, past and future, and all their families who serve, who put the uniform on every day, who train and commit themselves to the safety of others, no matter what comes their way. We have two sides of the coin here represented, right? You have Kit, who saved these officers' lives, who are with us here today. We have Nero doing his job, but we don't have Sean with us here today. That coin can flip easily either way. It's what we do as a result that really is the measure of our commitment. People can talk, and then they can walk and actually follow through with the words that they promise to protect the people who put themselves in harm's way to protect us every day. This law is an example of walking the walk. I want to thank Will Crocker. I want to thank Representative Zaros. That smile, thank you. We need that. We need a lot more of those. I want to thank the delegation, Senator Mark Montigny from the Gannon's home area. And I want to thank Chief Frederickson. I want to thank Chief Dubois. And I want to thank Mayor Kokoros from the Braintree area. I also want to acknowledge that we are proud of the way we police here in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. Yes, there have been lots of reforms, but also we lead in the way we police with community policing, with training, with equipment. And here we celebrate another asset in our training toolkit, and that is the Canine officer. I have a friend who is a Canine officer in Worcester, Danny Pinellatori. A lot of you probably know him. I have learned through him the value of these canine officers. He trains Malinois. They're smart, they're specifically skilled, they are unique officers, unique animals that serve missions that we as humans, as officers that stand on 2 feet, can't do. They are an essential asset to our officers to be able to do their work even better. I actually asked Danny to train my dog. And I also know that it's not only about the dog, it's about the partner and the owner. I am not as good a partner to my dog as these partners are to theirs, because they view them as an essential part of how they police and how they do their work. So today is a good day, okay? And there'll be more moments, unfortunately, ahead where we have to take a pause and figure out how we can do things even better. And that's how we'll continue to make progress and continue to honor Sergeant Sean and his family, Kit, and others whose lives have been lost in the service of others and the safety of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. We honor them by doing what we're doing today. And I want to thank all of you from the bottom of my heart, how grateful I am and how proud I am of all of you. I'd now like to introduce Senator Bruce Tarr.
Thank you very much, and good afternoon. Chief Frederickson, thank you for welcoming us once again to Yarmouth, and thank you for your continuous advocacy on behalf of the men and women who provide us with professional policing each and every day of the Commonwealth. It is truly an honor to be here with so many people who are so committed to maintaining our public safety each and every day. It's an honor to spend a few moments thinking about what you mean in our lives. It's also an honor to be here with such dedicated colleagues in state government. The governor, the lieutenant governor, so many of my legislative colleagues who I am so proud of today. And today, we think about a tragic day 4 years ago when we were reminded of some things, where we learned some things, and we were called to action. We were reminded that there is danger in this world and those who would do harm. We were reminded that in the face of that danger, there are brave men and women who every single day put on a badge, have sworn an oath, and walk through their front door, or maybe their back door, to defend us, not knowing what that might mean, but all the while aware that it might mean a loss of life, an impairment, an injury that will last for an entire life. We were reminded that we are blessed to have such people who stand up for us every day, like Sergeant Sean Gannon. And we were reminded that when they do that each and every day, oftentimes beside them, sometimes in front of them, there is a partner, a canine officer, who has many different attributes, well-trained, keen sense of smell, keen sense of vision. But perhaps the most notable attribute is a big and unrelenting heart and loyalty to the mission, to the partner, and to our safety. Those are the things that we were reminded of. And what we learned that day was that when one of those partners, in this case Nero, was in that moment, that critical moment of needing to be saved, And he turned to the public safety family. And we learned about an obstacle that kept him from being able to get into an ambulance to get to the right care. We also learned and were reminded of the incredible resourcefulness of the people that serve in our public safety ranks who figured out a way to get Nero to help in a police cruiser. And by the grace of God, he's here with us today. And on that day, with many emotions, there was also a call to action. A call to action to remove that impediment that delayed Nero's ability to get to help. And would have delayed the ability to get to help for Kit and many, many others across the state if they were in the same place. And I am so proud to live in a commonwealth where that call to action was heard. It was heard by the legislators who are here. I'm so proud of all of my colleagues. It was heard by Sergeant Sean's family, who in their time of grief found a place in their heart to have the courage to lead. Mrs. Gann and I spoke on the way here with our colleague Mark Montigny. And he told me that he's been in touch with you on, if not almost a weekly basis. He was wondering when you'll be dropping off food this afternoon when you return to New Bedford. But he spoke to me of your courage and your leadership, and he said, without you and your family, we wouldn't be at this moment. And like so many cases of important legislation, this bill happened as much because of people like you outside of state government as it did to all of us being receptive inside of state government. And we owe you an incredible debt of gratitude. Now, if you'll indulge me for just a moment, I'm going to tell you about one of the things that I think is most important in Massachusetts state government but doesn't get discussed enough. And that is that once a week, the entire leadership of state government sits around a table. The governor, the lieutenant governor, the speaker, the Senate president, the Ways and Means chairs, the minority leaders, the secretary of A&F. And I think, Governor, you had said one time that that's a meeting that you don't dare miss if you're in state government. And at that meeting, there is a list of items to be discussed. All kinds of legislation changes all the time. The one thing that didn't change was that Governor Baker, at every single meeting, with all the issues going on in state government, said, we need to get Nero's bill passed. That's leadership. So today, we are here to mark the legacy of a great police officer and a great member of this community and a great inspiration to all of us in the form of Sergeant Gannon. We are here to be thankful that Nero is with us, being a little bit shy at the moment. We're thankful for Kit. We're thankful for the men and women in law enforcement in this Commonwealth who we have a solemn obligation to support in every way we possibly can. We're here to be thankful because we have a legislature that is not obstructed by partisanship and finds ways to work together and move forward and get important things on the desk of a responsive governor. And we're here to remember that what started as a call to action 4 years ago completes today with what will soon be the signature of a passionate and responsive governor, making sure that never again does a canine officer, a partner, a member of this law enforcement family have to have delay in treatment. May God bless all of them, all of those who serve, and thank you so much to everyone in this team who got this done this day, another important page in the history of leadership in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. Thank you.
My friend, Representative Stephen G. Exaro.
Amen. This is very emotional for me and a lot of us, but I am grateful that we were able to pass this very important bill and make it a law. The bill is evidence that even today, amidst all the turmoil in the world, good people can come together and accomplish what is the right thing to do for the benefit of all of us. We come here today to rejoice and celebrate the hard work that made this bill a law, but also we know today is a solemn and bittersweet day. My emotions are all over the place. Exactly 4 years ago today, our lives changed forever. It was on this very day in 2018 that Canine Sergeant Sean M. Gannon and Nero and my brothers in blue were sent out to locate and apprehend a violent career criminal that never should have been on the street. And so it's on this day that Sergeant Gannon lost his life in service to our community and when Nero was seriously injured. I can't believe it's been 4 years. It feels like yesterday. Many of us were there that day. And I was the one who gave those officers their initial assignment. Many of them, I'm deeply grateful and thankful that they're alive. They're heroes and they're survivors. And some of them are here with us today. And I was there when Nero was taken out of the building, seriously hurt. My fiancée, Denise, who is a nurse, was right down the street in the emergency department, right down the street at Cape Cod Hospital, as she and her dedicated team of healthcare workers did the best they could valiantly and did everything they could to save Sean's life. Nero's bill is personal to me and for all of us that wear blue. We've spent the past 4 years grieving, and we continue to honor the service and the sacrifice of Sergeant Gannon. His memory lives on forever in our hearts. We will never forget him. Those of us who have worked in law enforcement and public safety, we're a family. And when something happens to one of us, it's on all of us. It's a brotherhood and sisterhood like nothing else. Through good and tragic times, we are always there and we stick together. And that's true whether you're talking about a human being or a service animal dedicated to protecting humans. That's why Nero's bill is so important. It's not just a piece of paper. Someday this bill will save a life, and that means everything to me and all of us. The animals that Nero's bill will protect are not just pets. They are every bit the heroes that we recognize their human counterparts in law enforcement to be every day. I am humbled and I'm grateful that we were able to take action to protect them. And I'd like to personally thank several people who helped along the way. State Rep Will Crocker. And his Chief of Staff, Caitlin Wright, sitting right in front of him. And Dr. Kevin Smith, the veterinarian who helped create the original version of the bill, and for all your hard work to help us get it over the goal line. I'd also like to thank Senator Montigny, my fellow New Bedford Whaler. I'm from New Bedford. Montigny's from New Bedford. The Gannons are from New Bedford. So it's a tough city. And when things happen, we stick together. And I thank you very much. The Senate Chair of the Joint Committee on Public Safety, Walter Timothy, for his leadership and assistance. And also, my personal thanks goes out to House Chair of the Joint Committee on Public Safety, which I'm on, my amigo, Representative Carlos Gonzalez, for always being there and your steadfast leadership to help getting it done. To Senate President, the Speaker, the House Leader Jones, Senate Minority Leaders, I thank you. This is all new to me, and I love it. And we're not done yet. I thank my brother in blue, Tim Whalen, State Trooper, brother in blue, and all my fellow Cape Cod legislators, Senator Sear, Senator Moran, my brother Kip Diggs with the same haircut, and all of the Cape Cod. Dave Vieira is here too somewhere, and everyone from the Cape. What a team we have, and I'm proud to be part of it. And again, Senator Timothy and Representative Roy, because it's your district where the Braintree Police, my worst nightmare was that it would happen again, and it did. Canine Kit lost his life, saving the lives of 3 Braintree police officers and countless Braintree citizens. Thank you for your unwavering support of this bill. And of course, I thank you, Governor Baker. You were there when we lost Sean, and Lieutenant Governor Polito. You have a huge heart, both of you. You see how he speaks. It comes from the heart. And yeah, you wanted this done every day for 4 years. And I'm grateful that you got it done. And finally, you know, today is Canine Sergeant Sean McNamee Gannon's Day. And his loving family, his wonderful wife, Dara, amazing woman, and his parents, Denise, who you'll hear from in a minute, Dad, Patrick. We are family, and we always will be. And lastly, this is like a movie to me, because 5 years ago, Sean and I stood here. It was a wooded lot with a big hole in it. And he said, "Deputy, you think we could take some trees down and make a space so the dogs could train? And that we could train our police officers, Nero, and all the dogs for generations to come." Sean was destined to do great things. He lived a life devoted to service before self. Sean, you keep doing those great things. You keep living your dreams, because today, a dream has come true. Thank you.
All right, anybody need any Kleenex at all? Because Denise Gannon, you have the stage.
Well, you won't need tissues, because if you knew Sean, he was full of humor. So I am going to keep humor in this talk. 30 years ago, Robert Fulghum wrote a poignant little book entitled, All I Really Needed to Know I Learned in Kindergarten. He anticipated a short life for his first book, which has now sold 6 million copies in English alone, published in 37 languages, and sold in 103 countries. It's pretty telling. I've always considered the book essential reading for anyone because the basics of life are hopefully taught and learned early on and remind us of the truth. We're all in this world together and fall back on the values and that continue to guide us when we find ourselves sputtering and staggering with too much on our plates. We all need one another. Fulgham writes, share everything. To be clear, I don't think he meant spouses or significant others. Play fair. Don't hit people. Put things back where you found them. Clean up your own mess. Don't take things that aren't yours. Say you're sorry when you hurt someone. Wash your hands before you eat. Flush. Well, warm cookies and cold milk are good for you. I would suggest that Chief Frederickson may argue that Dairy Queen and profiteroles are better. Matter of opinion. Live a balanced life. Learn some, think some, play some, sing some, work some, every day. Take a nap every afternoon. Officers, I suggest that even if you do a double, you might find yourself a bit of a hassle if you decide to take a nap in your cruiser. That's just... When you go out into the world, watch out for traffic, hold hands, and stick together. Wonder. Remember the little seed in the styrofoam cup? The roots go down, the plant comes up, but nobody really knows why or how, but we are all like that. Wonder. Goldfish, hamsters, and white mice, and even the little seed in the cup. They all die. So do we. Some before their times, and some too soon. And then remember the primer that you learned, and the biggest word of all, look. Everything you need to know is in there somewhere. The golden rule and love and basic sanitation, ecology, politics, sane living. A plethora of communications poured in after Sean was murdered. We didn't lose him. He died. Some contained stories about Sean. One came from a woman whom I didn't know, who wrote to tell me that she and her 2 little boys, who were 8 and 9 years old, had met Officer Gannon several times, and they cherished their memories of their encounters as greatly as they were shattered by his death. The first encounter was on the side of a road in Yarmouth, where Sean's blue cruiser lights pulled her over, the dreaded blue cruiser. The woman checked her seatbelt, which was secured. She checked her sons. They were in their seatbelts. She knew she hadn't been speeding because the boys were in the back, and the Cape Cod roads can sometimes be very windy and twisty. As far as she knew, she hadn't done anything wrong. But she still got very nervous when she rolled her window down. But she said Sean was, quote, so polite and so friendly that his demeanor calmed her. Sean had pulled her over to tell her that one of her back taillights was out, and you might want to get that fixed. It's serious. After he checked her license and registration, he returned to the car, and he noticed the 2 little boys sitting in the back seat. One of them asked Sean, "Is that a taser?" And Sean looked and said, "Is that a juice box?" He asked the boys what they wanted to be when they grew up. They said, "Police officers." Somebody quick, go grab those kids. The woman then told me that Sean gave the boys a few words of wisdom that she very much appreciated, and here I quote Sean. Get good grades in school, be kind to people, stay away from drugs, always obey your mother. And then he repeated the last sentence, always obey your mother. The woman wrote that following their encounter with Sean, she and her sons became very intrigued with public canine demonstrations, and they made sure that they attended them to learn from their friend, Officer Gannon, what canines and their handlers do when they work together. A relationship had been created from a traffic stop with a cup of kindness. What Sean learned, as we hopefully all did, in these very basic and indispensable elements that Fulgham breaks down for us, is in grown-up terms, the way we live in solidarity. We cross the borders of our own personal agendas and enter the situation of another that helps, heals, and develops relationships as we all go out into the world, watch out for traffic, and stick together. We are all different, but now part of you lives in me, and I live in part of you. We belong to one another. On this occasion of Nero's bill, publicly signed as Nero's law, we celebrate our solidarity. Law enforcement, politicians, veterinarians, family, members of the community, friends, everyone who embraced Nero's bill to see it signed into law. We all looked, we entered the world of canine, we held hands and stuck together and created needed change. I call that a success story. Amen. On behalf of our entire family, some who are present today and some who could not be here, and send their best wishes to you. Profound thanks to everyone for your presence here today on this 4th anniversary of Sean's death, and to everyone who stood behind this new law with such gravitas. Your friendship and your service mean the world. Sean is wearing his big smile on this very proud day. Thank you.
Now I'd like to bring up Chief Du Bois from Braintree Police Department.
Thanks. On June 4th last year, we experienced, a critical incident where an armed assailant fled into a heavily wooded area. And we did what we had done countless times before, as we called Kit and Officer Bill Cushing to action. He was at home. It was noontime. Kit came in, responded, obviously, with Officer Cushing and 2 other officers. And in law enforcement, I've really, over the years now, come to realize that canine handlers and canines probably do the most dangerous job that we can ask them to do. The situation in June, they're walking through a heavily vegetated area, looking for an armed suspect. And they do it without hesitation. And over 10, 11 years for Kit, countless times the same scenario. Suspect ambushed the officers and opened fire. And without hesitation, Kit reacted and ultimately was killed. But on the flip side of that, Kit saved 3 officers that day. We're very fortunate that they survived and they're with us still. The bond that canines have with their handler is just unbelievable. It's far more than a pet, which I have my first dog. 2 years ago, we have a COVID dog that my wife brought home, and it's surprising, but the bond is there. But 24 hours a day, go to work with your canine partner. That bond is just unbelievable. And it also translates to the police department, for everybody in the police department. For those officers here, obviously, I'm not telling you anything, but those who haven't seen how these canine interact in a police station, it's extremely strong, and I think officers would do anything for them. And we ask them ultimately to sacrifice themselves to save their canine partner. After that incident, shortly thereafter, 2 phone calls and two things happened that I think kind of very relevant to today. The first phone call I got almost immediately was from the governor's office. The governor and the lieutenant governor immediately reached out, and without any press or media or anything else, wanted to meet the officers, came, and they spent quite a bit of time at Braintree a couple days after the incident. And this day was a discussion. Nero's Law was a discussion that day. And it was a big discussion that we talked about to get this bill passed. And with the incident with Kit, I think it reinvigorated this discussion, and I hope had some help in getting this passed to be successful. And the other incident, or the other phone call that we received was from Rep. Zaros, who his enthusiasm is just unbelievable. I hadn't met him before, but he's relentless. So I don't know how a lot of this all took place, but I have to really assume that he was the driving force behind this, because he reached out to us countless times, and he is just all in 100%. And I just want to thank everybody that had a part in this, and it does make a huge difference, and it's a significant piece of legislation that we can service these animals when something happens to them, considering what they do for us. So I just want to thank everybody.
Governor Baker, gonna do the honors.
Yeah.